Disney, do you think you could stop at some point? Like, when is it ever gonna hit them? I guess money will talk, but still, when is it ever gonna get to their heads half the time that these live action movies, people don't want them, and yet you continue to give them to people? I mean, in this case, I guess in some way, because they made a lot of money, of course they would make another one, but even still, I'm just surprised that they are still gonna keep going, even with a lot of people saying these are just generic and just formulaic and just a repeat of the animated movies. Focus on your animated movies instead of this. Can you do that? If not, who am I kidding? They're just gonna keep going. Mufasa the Lion King is directed by Barry Jenkins with a screenplay yet again by Jeff Nathanson. The film stars Aaron Pierre, Kelvin Harrison Jr., Seth Rogen, Billy Eichner, Tiffany Boone, Donald Glover, Matt Mikkelsen, Randy Newman, Lennie James, Anika, Noni Rose, Blue Ivy Carter, and Beyoncé Knowles-Carter. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Mufasa, a cub lost and alone, meets a sympathetic lion named Taka, the heir to a royal bloodline. Chance meeting sets in motion an expansive journey of a group of misfits searching for their destiny. The Lion King 2019 film made $1 billion. People, let me repeat that. $1 billion with a B dollars against a budget of $250 to $260 million, becoming the seventh highest grossing film of all time. Who would have thought you would ever see the day that there's so many movies that come out and so many movies that reach that milestone, and yet here you are, you get to witness a remake of an animated movie being the seventh highest grossing movie of all time. I mean, it's just insane to me. It's crazy to even think that we live in an age where people are against remakes, yet somehow this managed to be one of the most highest grossing movies of all time. It's kind of baffling, and it's kind of crazy to even think that. After it was said, people thought that was it. Nobody was expecting anything much. They're like, all right, Disney's made another live action movie, but hey, at least that's a one-time thing, right, with regards to not seeing any more of with Lion King. But again, the film made $1 billion, people. Do you honestly think Disney's just gonna sit back and just be like, all right, we'll keep on doing these live-action movies, but, huge accomplishment for us. So Disney thought about making a follow-up, and people were like, wait, what? You're doing another one of these? Yes, surrounding Mufasa's origin in the aftermath of that said 2019 movie. So serving as both a prequel slash sequel to The Lion King. Though people didn't want it, and I can tell you and assure you that the internet or just moviegoers in general were probably like, I don't want it. I really don't. I don't think I was actually necessarily wondering where Mufasa came from. I just thought that he just became a great king or he was part of the royal bloodline. That's it. I didn't need to know anything else. But you know what Disney said? They're like, yeah, that's cute. All right. Keep going. So they went with it. Now that it's out, and having now watched the movie after rewatching The Lion King 2019, guys, I'm being serious when I say this. This is still all pointless. In the end, I just feel like this is just another thing that Disney is trying to do, which is still redo and just hopefully make the same $1 billion mark that the live action Lion King movie did. And just like The Lion King 2019, there are some positives that I do have with it, but really also some negatives. But before giving my issues, here are the positives that I have. The performances are enjoyable. Nobody is terrible in this movie. I think everyone does a fine job. Both Aaron Pierre and Kelvin Harrison Jr. are good as Mufasa and Taka. The process of elimination, you already know who it will be. It's Scar, okay? Let's not deny that, alright? They work well on their own and together throughout this entire movie, and they are the best parts of this film. Without a doubt, I think these two actors, because of how talented they are and because of how well they play into it, I think they are definitely the best performances of this movie because of how much they lean into personifications of what these characters would become and how it would all play out. And everyone else also does a good job playing their roles. Although I will say it's great knowing that Beyoncé just put her daughter in the movie, which, listen, I'm not trying to bash children of famous actors, aka Nepo babies. But it does get to a point, I can't deny it, where I'm like, I'm not trying to say anything bad about her. If she wanted to do it, that's fine. But I will say, man, it must be easy having famous parents. Yeah, the visuals are amazing. Continuing from The Lion King 2019, the visuals are still incredible to look at. It's impressive to see the technology and how the motion capture works throughout this movie and the detailing on the animals. But I will say, this time around, they are a bit expressive more than they were in the previous movie. There's a little bit more expressions on their faces. You can tell when they're smiling or when they're upset. So I do think that Disney did take some criticism with regards to the lack of emotion on the animals. So they did try to bump up the feeling of they are real, but they are very much more expressive on their faces. So I will say that is an improvement. They did give more of an emotional attachment with regards to the facial features of the animals. The cinematography is still amazing. Cinematographer James Laxton captures a sprawling and stunning film that showcases the rocky terrains, grass plains, and snowy mountains. Continuing on from the previous film in terms of capturing all of Africa. The feeling and the landscape of it all, I think it's beautiful. I think it's gorgeous, especially when they get into like snowy terrain areas. I think that is downright gorgeous. I think it looks beautiful, especially when emotion on the animals moving through it. I think it looks incredible. I think it is well done in terms of capturing the snowy nature of the area. The production is again top notch. Again, making sure the motion capture and surrounding areas shows the hard work everyone in the production team put in, the effort that they needed to do to make this feel as gorgeous but also as detailed as possible with regards to setting up things and making sure that the motion capture works really well and that there are other motion capture performances that are enhanced and making sure that they are all in sync with one another. And the score is good. Composers David Mezeger and Nicholas Brittle follows in Zimmer's path by crafting a score that fits into the world of The Lion King. I will say it doesn't top what Hans Zimmer did, and I don't think anybody's ever going to deny that. So I don't think it will ever surpass it, but it's a nice one to add into the world of Lion King, I guess, in terms of feeling like it is still connective and a part of the world. But guys, beyond that, it all feels average at best. That is the best way I can describe this movie, and that is, it's just meh. Nothing about this feels warranted in any sort of way. And I don't want to be rude, but I don't feel like this was a movie worth telling, if you will, or at the very least, like exploring. So here are the negatives that I have. The direction is indistinguishable. Director Barry Jenkins, who, by the way, this man won an Oscar for Moonlight, so I just want to point that out. I'm not trying to deny his talent. I do not want to bash him as a director. I'm not trying to downplay him or discredit him in any way. Doesn't do anything different though from Jon Favreau, which is he doesn't bring any style to it. That was my biggest problem with the live action Lion King, is that as much as I like Jon Favreau as a director and how much he puts a lot of effort into his movies and the style of it, the live action Lion King is the least stylistic thing that he has ever done because I just don't feel like there is a style to it. I don't feel like there's energy behind his direction. It all just kind of feels like what the original direction was from the original Lion King movie from '94. And it was a letdown for me because I feel like Barry Jenkins could have added more direction into this and put his own stamp and his own styling to it. But in the end, I just kind of felt like this was kind of a by the numbers book type of direction style that I just don't think it really feels like this is his. It just kind of also feels like Jon Favreau could have directed this. And that's the thing I don't want to discredit, like I said, of Barry Jenkins, but that's what I feel like. The story is predictable, though it's both a prequel and a sequel, so that I do think is interesting because it does showcase how Mufasa became who he was, but then also following the events of The Lion King with Simba's daughter learning the story about Mufasa and his upbringings, I think can be interesting. And I think that is a cool idea of telling both stories, but it all just felt so easy to predict. There's nothing about this that really felt like I don't know what's going to happen, because for the most part, you could kind of tell where things are going. I mean, besides the obvious like moments where it hints to The Lion King and what will happen in that movie, as you see in this prequel multiple times, which I will say got a little annoying. Nothing about it this surprised me. And that's the thing that disappoints me, is that I wanted a story that it can surprise me and actually get me wrapped up in, but I kind of just was like, all right, well, that was a movie. Oh well. Like, I don't feel any emotion behind it, in the sense of I just don't feel like the story was strong enough for me to actually follow behind. The writing is generic. Writer Jeff Nathanson delivers a script that hits the check marks of a prequel/sequel film, or in this case, rather, a prequel movie. This has always been my problem with a lot of prequel movies, in that they always have to not only hit the beats of what you know, but it's very obvious. If the writing can be at least strong enough to where when those moments hit, you'll know when they hit, but you'll at least be like, all right, but the writing is keeping me down and I'm going along with it. But because the writing feels how you would feel with most Disney movies, it's very easy to know when these things are, and the writing's just not as strong enough. I will say the actors perform very well with them. I'm just saying that the writing itself is just not strong enough. Also, the constant interruption from Timon and Pumbaa was annoying. I understand that Timon and Pumbaa, they are the comic relief. I get that they are iconic duo in the realm of Disney, but it does get to a point in this movie where I'm like, I would like them to just be quiet, not saying anything, because I would like to focus on what this story is supposed to be. But because you're interjecting them, and because of their humor just not always landing, I just found it all to be annoying. The pacing and runtime is drawn out. Scenes go in and out of periods constantly. There are times where it switches from being a prequel to being a sequel to being a prequel to being a sequel. There can be a way to balance this out, but it's the constant back and forth banter of telling Mufasa's story, then we got to go back to the present because Timon and Pumbaa have something to say, and then back to the past, and then back to the present, and back to the past, back to the present. I think there is a way to tell this story that didn't have to feel like it was like a tennis match most of the time. With a runtime of 2 hours, again, why is this 2 hours? Seriously, why? I don't understand why they can never find a runtime where it can just be less than that. It all has to be 2 hours, which I don't feel like this movie warranted that runtime, and I just kind of felt like it was just stalling out at certain points. The songs are forgettable. Songwriter Lin-Manuel Miranda makes songs that aren't memorable, not just for The Lion King, but for Disney. This, along with Moana 2, fell flat in this area. And what's funny is Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote songs for Moana, and they are some of the most memorable Disney songs in recent years. How come he goes on to work on this project? So with Moana 2, they didn't have him, so they had other songwriters to come in, and they couldn't capture the feeling of what he did. But yet, when I watch this movie and I watch actual Lin-Manuel Miranda deliver me songs, I just don't care about them. There's probably one song. If for nothing else, both Moana 2 and this movie, there are only one song from each of these movies that I can at least remember. Otherwise, most of the songs are very forgettable and just don't hit the same feeling as previous other Disney movies, or better yet, their counterparts, their previous movies. And that's the biggest disappointment I have to say with both of these films, is that they just cannot find songs to actually hit. And this is coming from a guy who worked with Disney twice on both animated films, Moana and Encanto. He made some incredible, amazing songs for those that people are going to remember. But yet, this movie, I don't remember most of them. They're pretty forgettable in the end. So I felt like he really dropped the ball on this one. Time and time again, Disney still doesn't put enough effort, and it makes me frustrated to see them just waste so much money into projects that I just feel like could work out, or at the very least, all right, I'm not sure, but hey, it could still surprise me. But in the end, I always walk away being like, all right, they made that, I guess. Either put in something that shakes things up, or don't do it. All right, if you're not going to put in a lot of the work or actually try to shake things up for the sake of it, just don't do it. You don't need to. You could just do more animated movies that are original. Or if you're going to do sequels, put a lot of effort. You did that along with Pixar for Inside Out 2. Why aren't we doing it with these movies? Once again, it's just another middling live action film from them. And constantly, I just always feel like Disney is just going to constantly just churn out a lot of these movies. And I just don't feel like they don't care nor want to fix anything, because if that means fixing something, then, well, people won't be interested in it. So just regurgitate the formula in a way that just feels like you notice it a lot more. So I am going to give Mufasa the Lion King a 5 out of 10. I just found this movie incredibly average. I found it just predictable, and I just didn't find myself really all that interested in the end. Yeah, it's pointless. It's another live action Disney movie. I mean, what do you guys expect a lot of these times? And I always try to give respect to the filmmakers and the people behind it, but if Disney's not going to put a lot of effort, man, I just don't see how people will continue to be in support of these movies. There are probably some fans of this, but I'm just saying, you got a lot of people who are just not happy with the results of films like these. So really, you got to put in more effort. You got to put in more work. It takes more than visual effects to make a movie even better. So now I'll be doing a complete unknown and then soon my best and worst of movies of 2024, and we can be done with the entire year. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.